Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Deep Dive in Tech. This is my first video in the playlist of learning Rust in 2025 and 2026. So in this video I'm going to explain why do we need to learn Rust in this current year and the coming year, right? And first of all, we will first understand what is Rust, why we need to learn Rust, right? We will not dive directly into the hello world program which we usually do when we would have learned these different kind of programming languages, right? So I'll tell you first of all what these problems are there with these current programming languages that we use in our daily life, and then how Rust is actually able to solve it, and why Rust is one of the in demand programming languages in the current year, right? So I think if you guys have heard about Rust and watching these videos, then most probably you would have heard about these different type of programming languages that we definitely use in our day-to-day life, right? Definitely if we are programmers, then we use C++, Java, Python, and these programming languages have different use cases based on what we are trying to solve, right? So before going and discussing about Rust, write a program in Rust, and start coding, let's first understand why do we even need to learn Rust. And to understand that why, first we need to understand what problems actually these programming languages have. Because of that, we need to explore Rust programming language and need to learn about that, right? So I think a lot of you or many of you would have already learned about C++ in some way, either doing DSA questions or exploring about C++ maybe your first of the programming languages, right? So the best part of C++ programming language is the speed, right? So before coming on to this C++, Java, Python, right? Let's ask a very simple question. For example, if you want to write a code, if you're writing a code, right, you choose any of the programming language. It can be C++, it can be Java, it can be Python. You choose a programming language, you wrote the code. Now what do you want out of that code, right? Definitely you want, first thing is working, yeah. So the code should be working at the first place, and after that, uh, once the code is working, we want it to be as fast as possible, right? So the first important thing is that code should be working. Second is it should be fast as possible, and definitely there should be very less number of errors in that, right? So first thing, it should be working. Second is it should be fast, right? It should be fast, high speed, execution as early as possible, right? And the last thing is it less errors during runtime, also called as runtime errors. So these are the basic requirement that we usually have, right, when we write any code using any of the programming languages. Let's suppose you choose C++. C++ is fast. C++ is used in operating systems. C++ is used in gaming systems, right, where we need to deal with hardware very fast, right? We need no abstraction, right? But the problem with C++ is manual management, right? So you need to manually manage all the memory things by the developer itself, right? The developer has to take care about creating a memory, releasing a memory, freeing the memory. Otherwise there will be many memory leak problems and other issues coming into your code, right? You need to make sure that if you're using memset to create a memory, then you're also freeing it when you don't need that memory now, right? So memory management is something that is not automated or that is not handled by C++ by default. You need to actually work there manually. The developer has to take care, and that's the one of the biggest issue here, memory management, right? So memory management is the biggest problem in C++, right? And second is libraries are not present, right? Definitely there has been a lot of work going on uh, in open source to bring more libraries, but we don't have much of a good amount of libraries in C++, right? So if we want to make very big project or solve a big business problem, then memory management and these libraries not getting present is going to be is one of the biggest trouble, right? Now coming on to these languages, this JavaScript, Python, these languages that we have, JavaScript, Python, and Java. So these languages actually are somewhere or the other connected with C++. So C and C++ is kind of a universal language. You will find this language everywhere. Either the language itself is written in C or C++, or the compiler or the runtime. So, for example, in JavaScript, the V8 engine is written in C++, right? So these programming languages actually solve this problem of memory management and libraries not present. Definitely, there are different use cases for these languages have been made and they are being used. But again, these languages comes up with an overhead. When they are solving this problem, they are bringing an overhead of garbage collector, and this is one of the biggest problem in these languages. You won't find lot of issues, but your runtime execution will not be that, it will not be equal to what you are going to expect. There is going to be a bit of an overhead. Your CPU utilization and memory utilization will be rising intermittently due to this garbage collector thread that runs in the background, right? So in case of C++, since memory management, pointer management, all these were manual, right? If you have a pointer which is dangling, which is pointing to a null value, or an unreferenced pointer is there which is not pointing to anything, that is going to result into segmentation fault. But in these languages, the concept of Python, the concept of pointers have been removed, right? It has been handled by the language itself, but that comes with the cost of garbage collector. Now, garbage collector keeps running and it detects which of the variables are not being used, and it removes them from the memory whenever it is running, right? But this creates an additional overhead and additional execution that happens in the background, and sometimes the program uses more CPU or more memory, and sometimes it results into bad performance of the application itself. So, and to solve these all problems, Rust is our hero. Rust comes here and it actually solves the problem of those memory management and garbage collector. So how does Rust does all these things, right? The question comes there. So if you have heard about Rust, then you would have heard about the concept of ownership and borrowing in Rust. So with the help of this concept, what Rust does is, it's first of all, it's a compile type language. So what Rust does is basically, with the help of ownership and borrowing, it actually handles and all this memory management. It adds the code at the compile time itself. It makes sure that there is no memory leak, or all the pointers that are pointing to a particular variable are being checked and validated based on the ownership and borrowing concept, right? So basically, there is no abstraction. The speed that Rust is going to provide is equal to C++, and the abstraction is going to be very minimal, and there is a kind of no abstraction between what code you are writing and which code is interacting with the hardware at the end of the day, right? So definitely we're going to learn about ownership and borrowing in very deep in the future videos, but this is the major problem that Rust solves, giving the speed of C++ and also removing all the abstraction. So that's why Rust is also called a system programming language. If you need to write a code, right, which needs to be very performant, which needs to be using all the low level things in the system and runs very fast, then Rust is the go-to programming language, right? And Rust is something not new now. It has been used by a lot of different languages, right? Windows is using to write some of the operating system code. Linux is using to write the kernel code in Rust, right? In fact, AWS, Cloudflare, these are the some big companies that are actually using Rust to write their code again, which is fast and remove this garbage collector overhead from here as well, right? So apart from this ownership and borrowing and memory management, it also provides good dependency libraries with the help of cargo, right? So yeah, this Rust actually helps with lot of these issues that these programming languages currently have, and we are going to learn each of them one by one, how Rust works, what are the syntax of work, how to declare variables, functions, and all in the future videos. So yep, the first video that is going to happen after this is the hello world program, which is the famous program that we're going to write, right? So yeah, let's see you in the next video. Please subscribe to my channel to be tuned about the next video coming. Thank you.